Once upon a time, in the village of Umujoma, where mountains embrace the sky and rivers held the whispers of the ancestor, there lived a woman named Adanna. She was known for her strength and quiet beauty. Adana was like the river that ran through her village, gentle yet resilient, with an unbreakable spirit, even as life threw its stones at her. Adana was raised to be a humble girl, and she was very hopeful. She worked tirelessly along her family, gathering food and tending to the land, ensuring that everyone had enough to eat, even in the harshest of seasons. Her life was simple but fulfilling. Surrounded by a loving family and guided by the wisdom of the elders, the people of her village looked up to her with respect and kindness because she had a kind soul. When Adana came of age, a young warrior from a neighboring village came to marry her. His name was Chike. Chike was tall, strong, and was known across the land for his courage in battle. Chike was admired by all who crossed his path, but it was Adana who captured his heart. Her beauty and grace enchanted him in ways no other women had. After a season of courtship filled with laughter and dreams shared under the night sky, Chike and Adana married in a ceremony filled with song and dance. As they exchanged their vows beneath the wide embrace of an ancient tree, Chike promised to love her forever, to cherish her with the breath that he took. In return, Adana vowed to stand by him, her heart open and faithful no matter the trials they would face together. At first, their marriage was blissful, the season was generous, and the land yielded a bounty. They had two beautiful, bright-eyed boys whose lives were filled with laughter. Adana found joy in the quiet moment they shared as a family, her heart sweeping with love each time she watched Chike play with the children by the riverside. She believed their love could withstand any storm, no matter what came. But as years passed, life grew harder. A long and relentless drought settled upon their land, leaving the field barren and the river shallow. Hunger began to creep into their lives, and there was less food and water to eat as a family. Chike, along with the other warriors, began to travel farther and farther into other villages and towns to find food for their village. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, with Chike returning home only in fleeting visits, but he will come back with food for his family to eat. During these long absences, Adana's responsibility grew. She became the sole provider for her family, foraging the forests, looking for food in the forest, picking food and fruits, and even from her little farm. She will pick fruits, harvest food, sell goods in the market and bartering at the village market, and will work from dawn until dusk just to ensure that her family survived. She prayed each night for Chike's safe return, and her heart, heavy yet hopeful. She missed his laughter, his strength, and the warmth of his embrace. And though she felt the weight of loneliness, she kept her vow to love her husband Chike, and her heart steadfast even in his absence. One evening, as Adana was gathering firewood in the forest, a group of villagers approached her with somber faces. "Have you heard the news, Adana?" they asked her gently. "Chike had taken another wife in another far-off village." Oh, these words struck her like thunderbolts. Her heart pounded and her vision blurred with tears. She wanted to deny it, to believe it was nothing more than a cruel rumor, but the pity in their eyes told her otherwise. Chike had chosen another woman named Amina from another prosperous village where the drought had not reached. There was enough food, water, drinks to go round, and Chike decided to stay with Amina instead of suffering and going back and forth looking for food for his family. And so he decided to live with Amina. With time, Chike's absence stretched into days, then weeks, and then months. And when he did return, his presence was fleeting, and he brought little to ease Adana's burden. Each time he left, her heart would ache more, for she knew his mind was no longer with her and her family. His mind was now with the new woman in his life. The man she had once loved so dearly had become a stranger, a shadow passing through their home, leaving behind nothing but his indifference. One evening, after a particularly long absence, while Chike was around, Adana decided to gather the courage to confront her husband Chike. Her voice trembling as she asked, "Chike, who is Amina? I heard you are living with another woman. What about your promises to me and our son? What about our family?" Chike's face hardened, and without a hint of remorse, he sneered. "You are lucky you still see me safe. Look, woman, don't bother waiting up for me anymore. Look, Adana, I'm gone. I'm tired of going back and forth trying to look for food. Please take care of yourself. I'm gone. I'm going to stay with Mina and I'm not coming back." Tears brim in her eyes as she asks, "Chike, what are you saying? What about our children? They need their father." Chike shrugged, his voice very cold. "The God who gave them to you will provide for you. He will find a way, madam." And with those words, he left their home, leaving Adana broken and desolate. For weeks, she cried alone at night, her heart shattered by betrayal and sorrow. But as each dawn broke, the weight of her children's innocent face gave her the strength to carry on. Her sons were all she had now, and she knew she had to be strong for them. So, determined to survive, Adana picked up herself. With a very small donation from the villagers who pitied her plight, she went on to look for produce to buy and then to sell. She began selling the produce from a tiny store at the market. She quickly learned how to negotiate prices, seeking out new customers and building trust. Day by day, as her business grew, and though her hands were blistered and her body weary, she found the strength within herself to carry on. She never knew she was this strong. Then she began homeschooling her children because she could not afford the traditional school. And then she would go on going to the farm and also selling in the markets. She would teach her children to manage whatever resources she could find, pouring all her love and determination to raise her children very well. Over the years, her hard work began to bear fruit. Her business began to expand, allowing her to afford the school fees so that she can give her sons a formal education in a very good school. She watched her children grow, their eyes bright with ambition, each of them driven by the desire to make her proud. Despite all odds, her two sons graduated from the university, each finding success in their own rights. They became one of the most respected young men in the village, and they became the pride of the village. And they never forgot about their mother's sacrifices. When their son offered to take care of her, insisting that she should rest and she should no longer sell in the market, Adana shook her head and said, "No, my son," she said with a warm smile. "This work keeps my spirit alive. I find peace going every day in and out of the house. Please let me do this job. Don't let me die out of loneliness." And so, to honor their mother's wishes, they asked their mother what she wanted, because they told her they didn't want her to be selling fruits in the market again. They asked her what would she want, and she said she wanted to open a clothing store. And so, her two sons opened a large clothing store for her, hiring workers to help manage her business, and branded the shop Adanna. She could now come and go as she pleased, as she had workers to work for her. Adana marveled at how far she had come. She thanked God for her sons, and one evening, as they sat around her, she looked at each one of them and said, "I am proud of you too. You have given me the greatest joy a mother could ever know." And her sons replied in unison, "Mama, we are here because of you. You gave us the strength and you sacrificed your life for us. Mama, we will do anything for you, ma." Then one day, as she sat in her store, a familiar figure walked into the village. A weary, weathered Chike, humbled and broken, walked into the village, and the villagers were looking. He was abandoned and thrown out by Amina, as Amina left him penniless and homeless. He had nowhere to go. The village buzzed with whisper of his return, and finally he made his way to Adana's home, the very place he had once left behind so carelessly. He then knocked on the door, and when Adana opened it, She saw the shadow of the man she had once loved, now reduced to a pitiful state. With a trembling voice, filled with desperation, he pleaded, "Adanna, please, I have lost everything. Amina had left me. I have nowhere to go. I know I've wronged you, but please, I beg you, please forgive me. I want to come home. Please forgive me. I want to come home and I realize my mistake." Chike returned to the village was not with a humble heart. After years spent with Amina, he was now penniless and homeless, and Amina cast him out. Driven by her own betrayal, he was left with nowhere to go. But when she threw him out, he heard whispers around town that Adana was now very prosperous and being taken care of by her sons, who had grown up to become very hardworking and very wealthy men. Their wealth was known throughout the village, and their respect had only deepened over the years. And so, with empty hand and a heavy heart, Chike arrived at Adana's doorstep, pleading for forgiveness. Adana allowed him to clean up and then gave him a meal. After the meal, he sat in the dim light of the evening. He began his tale. His voice broke as he spoke of Amina, who had humiliated him, and he spoke of how he lost everything and how he realized the value of his first family. He spoke of his regrets, hoping to pull Adana's string. "Adana, I know I've wronged you deeply. I've hurt you and my son so deeply, but I'm begging you for a chance to make it all right. I still love you. I see now that you and the children are all that I ever need." Adana listened. Her heart hardened inside, but she refused to show it. She looked at her son, who stood by her through everything. They had become strong men, shaped by the hardship and love they had shared together with her. Finally, Adana spoke, with her voice very calm but firm. "Chike, I've heard your plea, and I know the pain of betrayal too well. I forgive you, but we cannot forget the past. You left us in times of need. You abandoned us and you left us with your full chest. My son and I have suffered and have to rebuild our lives, and now we are at peace with ourselves, and you want to come back to destroy it? Sorry, we forgive you, but we can never forget it." Adana then handed him a small purse of coin. "Take this, Chike, and use it to find your own way. We have forgiven you, but our paths are no longer the same. I wish you well, but I ask you never to return back to this house again." Chike took the bag of coin, and then his face darkened with disbelief. He looked around the house and said, "What do you mean, don't return? Is this not my house?" he said with his voice rising in anger. "I built this house with my own very hand. I deserve to stay here just as much as you and all of you." Adana and her son were taken aback by his words, but they exchanged a silent look of understanding. With a calm reserve, they chose not to argue. And then Adana said, "Well, if you feel that way, then stay. We will not fight you. It is your house like you rightly claim." For the next few weeks, they all tried to live together as a family. Adana remained dignified and silent, while her son treated Chike, their father, with a mixture of respect and distance. They allowed him his space, and he could see that he was an outsider in his own home. The family which he had once abandoned had grown close and did not need him in it, and he could feel that unbreakable bond each day, a bond from which he was now excluded. One evening, as Chike left to meet his friends, he noticed how his son carried themselves with pride and how the villagers looked at Adana with respect and admiration. But in his heart, he began to feel the loneliness of a man who had once held everything and had lost it by his own hands. When he returned that night, the whole house was silent. He called out for Adana and his son, but no one answered. He walked from one room to the other, searching and shouting their names. Yet his voice echoed through the empty walls. He opened the doors of everywhere, hoping to find a sign of their presence. But he was met with nothingness. Adana and his two sons were gone. For a moment, he stood there in disbelief. He looked around the house again. His house, as he had once called it, was now an empty shell. But as the truth sank in, his leg grew very weak and he slumped to the ground and he was defeated. Days later, he heard from the villagers that Adanna's son had built her a very grand home on the other side of the village, a mansion built with love and hard work and respect. His family had moved on, leaving him behind. They are choosing peace over bitterness that he had brought into their lives again. And they had left him with his own house that he claimed he has built with his own hands. Now, as the season passed, Chike grew old in that lonely house. The laughter and warmth of his family were gone, replaced by the echoes of his choices. He will sit by the door each evening, hoping to see his family face, hoping to hear their voice, but only met by silence. The emptiness of a man who had betrayed his own heart, to live with his own shadow of what could have been. The wealth, the love, the loyalty, all of it was to his own loss.